Wow, man, I feel so grateful, and I know so many of you feel the same way. It's so good to be back here to see so many faces that are family, that are friends, and man, I'm just so grateful. Grateful for all of you out there as well. Nice to see all your smiling faces on Zoom there. First of all, let me just clear something up because Rob, you had asked me about a month ago if I had gotten vaccinated, and my answer was no, I had not. And then shortly after that, I was doing. Was scheduled to speak here, and then Delith had sent the message out that you need to be fully vaccinated to visit here or to speak here. And I'm like, oh, what's going on here, you know? And so I said to my son, I go, man, I guess I'm not going to get a chance to speak here. And he said, well, the Johnson & Johnson one just came out. You could actually go do that. So I did one and done, and that was about almost a month ago. So I'm not cheating the system. I just want you to know that. And that where you saw, it looked like an optical illusion where Carol and I were hugging. We weren't hugging, actually. I won't do it again. It's so nice to be here. Photoshopped, right? It's so nice to be here again. And I've been doing a fair amount of speaking still, but it's Zoom. I'm very grateful for Zoom, but it is not here. It is not here. And so the talk that I'm presenting today is being at peace in chaotic times. And I think certainly from a mental perspective, I don't think anybody argue with it. It is chaotic times in so many ways, and we could go on with a whole list of things that is just gone bonkers in the world, and is just the craziness of the world. But my wife tells me to not say this too much, and that is that honestly, COVID's been pretty good to me. And I heard Sadhguru say, if you know him, the awakened teacher that really has, I think, millions of followers. He said, if I would have known all the good that would have come from the virus, I would have brought it here a long time ago. It's just another perspective, you know, and ultimately, each of us is projecting out into the world what we most need to experience for ourselves. We all go through our different filters. You can give one experience to one person and they will be in turmoil the whole time with the experience. You can give the same experience to somebody else. Why are they at peace with it? And so I am learning more and more that I rest on this, I lean on this quote by my teacher, Maharishi Sadashiva Sham, and he said, there's not one single hair out of place in the universe. And I love that quote so much because anytime I am caught in my mind and the mental disturbance that is going on, and that's what it is, a mental disturbance, something that we're buying into from our mind that says, I don't want this thing to be this way. And, you know, God, you're good, but you screwed it up this time, you know? But that's kind of what we're doing in a way. And, you know, when we look at things flowing and, you know, we're fighting against them, we can make it seem bad or wrong. And that doesn't even really matter. In fact, Joy and I were having a conversation, you know, about just that ultimately, it really doesn't matter what's happening in the world. It does not matter one single thing. And Eckhart Tolle said that the situation is never the problem. Our reaction to it is, you know, if we're reacting in a way that is, of course, dragging us through the quagmire of life. So as I kind of navigate through these times, for me, honestly, I would say that it's been such a useful tool for me to dive deeper into the truth of who I am. And the truth of who I am is that place that is beyond the thoughts, beyond the beliefs, beyond the mind, beyond the body, into that empty, formless truth of who I am and who we all are. And I'm not saying that from a place of belief. I'm saying that with a deep knowing within my heart. And the more I connect from that place within myself, I resonate with a quote out of A Course in Miracles. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. And if you think of what is real, what we're looking at is not real. This is the Maya, or the great illusion that you hear a lot of teachers speak of. And what is that illusion? That illusion is the story that we have bought into as if it's the truth of our reality and as if it's the truth of who we are. And so because of that, we're caught up in all these, we're caught up in all the stories of who we think we are, who we think others should be, and how we think the world should be, which is all mind stuff. It's all the beliefs that we've hooked into, and maybe we've had an experience, and that experience has said, well, this happened, therefore it equals this is bad, or this is sad, or this is angry, or this is love even. Even stories of good stories are still stories. But ultimately, the truth of who we are is beyond any stories. It's beyond any stories. And if you're caught in the story of who you think you are, and some people call that the person, the personality. And if, I know there might be some people, not as much here, but if you said this out in the world, it's like, I'm not a person, they'd be like, you're a little off there, buddy. Something's going wrong with you. But the truth is, when we begin to recognize that we are not all these thoughts that are chattering in our head, and we stop believing them, there's a whole nother realm that opens up. And that realm is a place that we have all been striving for. A place of peace, a place of joy, a place of love, a place of truth, a place of God, or whatever that word is for you. It's that something that is beyond all this craziness that is there. But the funny thing is, might not be funny to some people, but is that state, that true state of being of who we are, is here right now in this moment. It has always been here. It's always been you. It will always be you. There's nothing you can do to get rid of it. It's like a fish in the water looking for the water. It's everywhere around us. It's us. It's God. It's everything. And because we have forgotten that truth, we're all struggling to get back to that place. Now, if we take a look at what struggle is really, it's not flowing with life, right? Anytime life presents a situation to you, and then all of a sudden you say, no, I do not want life to look this way. I don't want this. And a lot of times what happens is, as soon as something challenging comes to us, we immediately think, or we might even pray, like, God, please help me to get rid of this lesson. Please help me to heal this. Please help me, to let go of it, or whatever we need to do. And so God and life are bringing you these teachings, and we're feeling a little bit slapped around a little bit, right? It's like, oh gosh, I don't like this lesson. But the truth is, God is not slapping you around. God is bringing you the exact thing that you need to remember the truth of who you are, that is right here, right now, in this moment. That's all. And so your choice then becomes, do I accept this experience or do I reject it? If we're being honest, most people are rejecting so much going on in the world, and as soon as they do, immediately stress and struggle ensue. Immediately. But your other choice is to say, I don't like this. It's bringing up my anger, my frustrations, my disappointment, whatever it's bringing up. But I recognize, I am aware that it is exactly what is needed for me in this moment. Now, it might not even be fair to say that I recognize that it's here for me. You might not recognize that, but you can have trust and faith that life and God are on your side. If you come from a mental perspective, the mind is logical. And it just doesn't make sense so much of what happens because the mind doesn't know how to have trust and faith. It's all based on logic and analyzing things. And the mind also doesn't understand happiness, right? The mind has thoughts and beliefs about what happiness is, but it does not fully understand happiness. Please see this because this is important. Because what happens is we have all been raised in a dysfunctional world, dysfunctional parents, dysfunctional teachers, dysfunctional ministers, and you name it, it's been dysfunctional, but it's all been perfect dysfunction. And that dysfunction is to help us to connect with something deeper within ourselves. And so again, life and God come along and we feel like we're being slapped around, but it's giving you exactly what you need. But the mind cannot recognize that truth. Because the mind, Osho called the mind like a giant recorder. It records every event that you have. And then I'll add to that, and then we, in our beliefs of what the mind has said, we've bought into the story. Now we've become this person, this personality. We might describe ourselves, I'm about 5'9", I'm thin, sometimes a good guy, sometimes I'm arrogant, sometimes, and we have all these stories that come up. And so based on the mind being a recorder, then all of a sudden, we're regurgitating this old information out of the stories that we have bought into the truth of who we are. In my meditations, I invite people all the time to let go of the story. Let go of the story because it's locking you into something that you are not. In fact, the very story of who you think you are is actually preventing you from being the truth of who you are right now in this moment. But what happens is in this world, because we have bought into the story from all the people that we believed, all the authority figures, parents, teachers, ministers, all that kind of thing, we have looked to the mind and we said, I'm really not happy. What is it that I need to do to become happy? Only we don't look to God for that answer sometimes. I'm sure there's many people that do look to God in here for that. I'm confident of that, or whatever your source is. But in the world, a lot of people are looking to the mind for the solutions. I'm going to figure out what this problem is. I'm going to solve this problem. I know, and coming from the mind, I know that when, and I love what Peggy was saying. Did she step out? I loved what she was saying because she was saying about waiting when someday comes. And so a lot of people are in a waiting pattern for something to shift in their life, then I'll be happy. That is an illusion. You literally have everything you need to be happy right now, to be at peace right now, literally. But the question is, if you're not at peace, then what is it that's blocking you from recognizing that truth? Because we seek peace, we seek joy, we seek love, we seek God. But the truth is, when we let go of all those things, those stories, those self-images, those concepts, those beliefs, when we let go of all of that, the only thing that remains is the truth of who we are, that is naturally peaceful, naturally loving, naturally joyful, and naturally one with God and as God. I always there's a part of me, my Baptist upbringing, when I say, and as God, it's like, is that a little blasphemous or something, So, and I think people have that kind of experience sometimes because we're taught, I would say certainly from kind of a more of a fundamental Christian point of view, is that many of us were taught that, we're not one with God. But interesting thing out of the Bible, Jesus says, the Father and I are one, but what people forget about is he also said you and the Father are one. So just a little bit of trivia there to counterbalance the rest of it, So when we're looking to our mind for the solutions and we're essentially making the mind our God, then what happens is the mind will get very busy. It gets the mind busy, and you're never going to find peace in that busyness. As a meditation teacher, probably the biggest comment I hear from people is, I'm not very good at meditating. I don't know how to still my mind. And I would say, stop trying to still your mind. Just stop trying to still your mind doesn't have to be still to be at peace. All that's required on your part is, oh, I noticed that thought, but I recognize that thought is not the truth of who I am. I recognize that thought, but I recognize that thought is not the truth of who I am. And when we stop believing all the craziness that the mind is feeding us as truth, we begin to find the stillness naturally presents itself, because it's the truth of who we are. It's the natural us, that pure beingness, that pure isness, who we all are. I was listening yesterday to a little excerpt from Plum Village, for those of you who are familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh, and I love the peace that he exudes. He literally just exudes peace. I can't describe him in any other way, just pure peace. And I was listening to this a nun, I guess she's called, and she was giving this excerpt on ringing the Tibetan bell, or different kinds of bells, and just bringing you back to the moment. And she talked about ringing the bell and then taking 3 conscious breaths. And she said, and in the world, your bell is the breath. Anytime I'm feeling out of sorts, because in January it'll be 30 years I've been meditating, so I'm getting used to hearing the thoughts through the day as well, noticing those. And so anytime I'm like noticing stress, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm fighting against something right now. Can I simply come back to the present moment? Can I come back to that bell within me, that breath? And can I just take 3 conscious breaths? And at Plum Village there, they actually have a gong or a bell going off every 15 minutes to bring you back to the present moment. The present moment has everything you need to help you to feel and be at home to the truth of who you are. It's only when we dip into the past or we worry about the future that we stray from the present moment and we step out of the peace that is already the truth of who we are. I feel grateful. Man, I just feel grateful. It's easier to feel that here. I'm not going to lie. Seeing all your faces, it's just easier to be in that. But we take this wherever we go, right? Whether we're on Zoom or wherever we're at, we take this with us. And the truth of who you are, I always say this in my meditations, I'm not here to convince you or persuade you of anything. I am simply offering something to help you to see what is blocking you from the truth that you already are, that is right here, right now. And the more you tap into that, you can't help but to feel the gratitude for everything that's going on in your life, everything. And yes, I have plenty of my moments. In fact, I was getting ready this morning and I went to go put my wedding ring on. I'm like, where's my wedding ring? And I know I put it in the same place all times. I was very disturbed by that because I'm always looking at the spiritual signs out there. You know, I was like, oh, does this mean something's bad with my marriage or something? So that's where my mind went with this whole thing. And I texted my wife. I'm like, I don't know where my wedding ring is at. Well, I don't have it on this morning. But what I do trust that every single thing is exactly the way it needs to be. And I'm not asking you to believe that to be true, what I'm sharing. You don't have to believe me. Just explore with it for yourself. See what it feels like to just flow with God and have trust and faith that everything is unfolding exactly as it needs to. And when you start fighting against life, just notice that. Be aware of it. You don't have to make it bad or wrong. Like notice like, oh, I see I'm fighting with life. Well, why am I doing that? You don't have to analyze it. And I'll tell you this too. You don't have to do any self-talk to correct yourself, because the self-talk is only empowering the thought as if it's real in the first place. And it is not. Nothing unreal exists. This reality that we see out there in the world, or what we think is the reality, is this beautiful reflection that is here to simply return you home to the truth that you already are. You can't escape you. You can try to avoid you, the big you, or you can have thoughts that block you from realizing that. But when you let go of who you are not, see what remains. Don't just believe me on that. Feel it for yourself. I feel like I want to just finish with a prayer here. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, all those beautiful beings of love and light who have come forth to support us, we open our hearts, we open our minds, we open up to the infinite possibilities of who we are. Help us to let go of all those stories that get in the way of us recognizing the beautiful truth and the freedom of who we are right now in this moment. Help us to recognize that it doesn't matter what's happening in our life if we are being conscious and aware of it, and we are recognizing that that is not the truth. The experiences are just here to awaken us. Help us to remember that. And we just give over all of our burdens, all of our worries over to you, and just help us to return home to that truth that we already are. And we thank you so much for that. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.